Elias Thornfield adjusted the reins on Virelia's harness and gave a soft whistle. The sapphire-scaled dragon shifted, wings stretching, eyes narrowing in anticipation. Around them, the exhibition grounds of Thalassar Prime buzzed with alien voices, a cacophony of chittering clicks, musical tones, and guttural growls. Ships of all shapes and sizes hovered above the floating archipelagos, casting long shadows over the crystalline forests below. Alien nobles in flowing robes and metallic insignia floated past on anti-grav platforms, sneering as they glanced at the human delegation. "Keep her calm," Elias murmured to Mina Salas, who was crouched beside him, adjusting the subtle runes etched into the dragon's harnesses. "Remember, they think we're nothing more than farmers. Let's not remind them of it, yet." Mina gave a tight nod, her fingers brushing over the runes. "I've double-checked the translation grids. Galactic Standard will carry. They won't suspect until it's too late." A ripple of laughter passed through a group of Voran nobles nearby, led by the smug ambassador Escaril. His mandibles clicked in amusement, and his segmented eyes glinted with condescension. "Look at this," he said to the others. "Humans parading dragons as if they're pets. Do they truly imagine these beasts obey them?" "Pet dragons?" hissed a hovering aristocrat from the Kelari sector. "How quaint. Perhaps they milk them for honey as well." The group erupted in more laughter, their voices echoing across the terraces and walkways. Virelia's tail flicked once, sending a small plume of iridescent sparks into the air. Elias felt her tension, sensed the patience behind it. She was proud and cautious, the perfect combination for the first impression humans intended to make. He stepped forward, straightening his shoulders, and raised a hand. "Honored delegates," Elias began, his voice calm but carrying a resonance that commanded attention, "we thank you for witnessing the bounty of Thalassar Prime and the talents of its people. Our dragons are not mere spectacles. They are partners, friends, and keepers of an ancient knowledge, one that predates even the Galactic Standard itself." The nobles blinked at him, some in irritation, some in thinly veiled amusement. A Voran elder waved a claw dismissively. "Ancient knowledge," he sneered. "What can farmers know of diplomacy, strategy, or power? Surely nothing but tending honey and feeding beasts." Mina stepped closer to Elias, holding a small crystalline translator device that shimmered with light. "Remember, the words matter," she whispered. "The old tongue carries their meaning into Galactic Standard. Let them hear it." Elias nodded subtly. "Virelia," he said, his tone soft but deliberate, "speak." The dragon raised her head, her sapphire scales catching the sunlight as she inhaled deeply. Then, in a voice that was both melodic and commanding, she spoke. "Delegates of the stars, hear the words of Thalassar Prime. The humans before you are not simple farmers. They are masters of language, strategy, and craft. They are allies, they are protectors, and they are the keepers of power that you cannot yet comprehend." A ripple of confusion ran through the crowd. Some of the Voran nobles froze mid-laugh, their mandibles clicking nervously. A Kelari diplomat stammered, that was in Galactic Standard." "Yes," Elias said quietly, almost to himself. "Every word, they understand us now. They know we are not to be underestimated." Whispers spread across the exhibition floor. Aliens turned to each other, exchanging uncertain glances. The laughter that had once mocked them was replaced by a low murmur of tension. Some of the younger nobles, their scales pale with shock, whispered about the old legends of human dragons, tales long dismissed as myths. Virelia stepped forward, wings unfurling, casting a shadow across the audience. She spoke again, each syllable precise, deliberate. "We are ready to negotiate, to ally, or to defend. The humans are prepared for any choice. Do not mistake patience for weakness." Elias watched the reaction carefully. Every twitch, every glance told him what words alone could not. The Voran ambassador's eyes, once brimming with arrogance, now narrowed with suspicion. He opened his mandibles as if to speak, then hesitated, glancing at the others. The mockery was gone, replaced by a dawning awareness of power, an understanding that humans had woven diplomacy, warfare, and magic into a single, unbreakable thread. Mina stepped forward, her hand resting lightly on Virelia's scaled neck. "This is only the beginning," she murmured. "They think this is a show. Soon they'll understand that every movement, every word, carries meaning they cannot yet fathom." The exhibition floor had fallen silent. Hovering nobles exchanged hurried signals, their whispers turning to frantic translation checks. Elias felt a quiet satisfaction. They had expected jest. They had received mastery. Virelia lowered her wings slightly, still vigilant, still commanding. Elias patted her side gently. Good, he said. They understand for now. The humans maintained their calm, their unassuming posture belying the storm they had just unleashed. Around them, alien whispers carried across the terraces, rumors forming, doubts seeding. A single moment, a single speech, and the balance of perceived power had shifted. Elias allowed himself a brief smile. The dragons had spoken, and the galaxy would never look at humans the same way again. Ambassador Escarol's segmented eyes narrowed, the ridges above them twitching in disbelief. He opened his mandibles to speak, but the words faltered halfway. Around him, the other Voran nobles shifted uneasily, their arrogance dissolving into uncertainty. Whispers spread like wildfire across the terraces, alien voices trembling as they repeated what they had just heard. This is impossible, Escarol hissed, clicking his claws against the railing. Humans cannot. They can, murmured a younger noble beside him, her scales pale with shock. They have control. They understand more than we thought possible. Elias stood calmly, eyes on Escarol. He made no sudden movements, but every line of his posture radiated quiet confidence. Virelia's wings flared slightly, a subtle reminder of the raw power she could unleash, yet she did not strike. The dragons surrounding her shifted in unison, scales glinting, eyes tracking every movement of the alien delegates. Escarol's mandibles clicked in irritation. This is an insult. They are beasts. They are tools for entertainment. He waved a claw toward the dragons. And yet, they speak in our tongue. They coordinate with precision, with strategy, with... He stopped abruptly, realizing he could not finish the thought without betraying his fear. Mina stepped forward, holding the crystalline translator high. Every word Virelia spoke, she said evenly, was crafted in the old tongue. It is a language of intent, of command. You mock, but you have just witnessed centuries of mastery. A Kelari diplomat floated closer, tentacles curling nervously. You humans, you have trained them to speak galactic standard, all of them. His voice trembled as if fear were a new flavor he could taste. Yes, Elias replied. Not all dragons, but enough to make clear that humans are no longer the naive species you assumed. We train, we communicate, and we strategize in ways your kind cannot yet fathom. Virelia lifted her head, her eyes glinting like sapphires in sunlight. She spoke again, her voice steady and commanding. We are loyal to our human partners, but we are capable of independent judgment. The old tongue binds us not through fear, but through understanding, respect, and choice. Should any of you seek to test our patience, you will find it well prepared. The nobles recoiled, some stepping back from the edge of their platforms, as if proximity alone carried danger. A few clawed at their communication devices, trying to confirm what they had heard. Rumors of human dragons had existed for centuries, always dismissed as exaggerations, bedtime stories for young delegates. Now those stories were reality. Escarol's mandibles clicked with sharp irritation. This is preposterous. You dare parade beasts with intelligence as if they are your equals. Elias' smile was faint but unwavering. They are not just my equals, Ambassador. They are extensions of human skill, culture, and understanding, and we intend to show you exactly how far that extends. One of the smaller dragons, a golden-scaled female, stepped forward, her voice soft but clear in galactic standard. The humans are patient, yet deliberate. They are prepared for negotiation, for defense, and if necessary, for war. Underestimate them at your peril. The Voran elder swiveled his head, mandibles twitching, and hissed. They speak in our tongue, they command creatures of immense power, and they do so with poise. His voice was incredulous, even as he struggled to compose himself. It is unnatural. How can such control exist in a species so seemingly weak? Mina's hands moved along the runes etched into the dragon's harnesses, subtly activating the faint pulses of energy that linked dragons and humans in a network of coordination. Each dragon's posture stiffened slightly, synchronized perfectly with the others. Even without speaking, the collective display was a reminder. Any misstep by the aliens could provoke an immediate, devastating response. Escarol's claws tapped rapidly on the railing, frustration and fear intertwining. You have made mockery of our intelligence, he spat. We came expecting spectacle, and instead you wield knowledge, power, and command in ways that make our presence feel insignificant. Elias tilted his head, calm as ever. Perhaps it is time your perception of humans changed. The stories you have believed, the assumptions you have carried, they are all incomplete. Virelia's tail swept across the terrace behind her, sending a ripple of shimmering sparks through the air, each one dancing in patterns that suggested intelligence and deliberate artistry. The audience could not ignore it. Even those who had once laughed now faltered under the subtle demonstration of control. A Kalari diplomat stammered, her tentacles curling nervously. You must be careful. Other species will react." Ilias met her gaze evenly. "We are careful, but make no mistake, we are prepared. The old tongue is not simply a language. It is power, history, and strategy fused into communication. We have waited centuries for the right moment, and that moment is now." The aliens looked at one another, their collective confidence waning. Whispered speculation and urgent consultation replaced derision. Some of the youngest nobles, previously eager to jeer, now exchanged fearful glances. The balance of the room had shifted entirely. Violia lowered her wings slightly but did not relax. Elias stepped closer to her side, his hand brushing along her scaled neck. "Let them digest this," he said softly. "They will try to assert control, to recover dignity, but they have already seen what we are capable of." Escarol's mandibles clicked again, slower this time with a new calculation. "We will see," he hissed. "Do not think your dragons. Words protect you from the galaxy's judgment." Elias' smile widened imperceptibly. "The galaxy's judgment is only fair when it is informed. We have informed them." And in that charged silence, the human delegation and their dragons stood poised, not for conflict yet, but for the acknowledgement they had earned. The acknowledgement that humans were no longer to be underestimated, that the mockery had ended, and that the next moves in this galactic game would be theirs to dictate. Ilias stepped forward, his gaze sweeping across the assembly of alien nobles. Their whispers had grown frantic, a tide of confusion and unease that the dragons sensed instantly. Violia shifted beside him, her wings stretching slightly, catching the light in a cascade of sapphire. She tilted her head toward him, signaling readiness. "Observe carefully," Ilias murmured to Mina. "Now we show them coordination, precision, and strategy." Mina nodded, her fingers tracing the runes on the dragon's harnesses. A subtle pulse traveled along the etchings, an invisible signal linking the dragons in perfect synchrony. One by one, the dragons lifted from the terraces, their wings beating in a silent, deliberate cadence. Sparks of elemental energy flared at the tips of their tails and claws, illuminating patterns in the air that resembled both art and command grids. Escarol hissed, mandibles clicking sharply. This is preposterous. They are performing coordinated maneuvers as if orchestrated by a single mind." A Voran noble's claws scraped the railing as he struggled to maintain composure. "Generals, no, this cannot be. They are farmers. They have no right, no." His voice broke as Violia's voice rose again, addressing him directly, the clarity of the old tongue flowing seamlessly into galactic standard. "You will adjust your assumptions," Violia said. "Humans have prepared for centuries. They understand dragons, language, strategy, and magic. Our flight is not trickery. It is proof." Ilias moved beside Mina, allowing her to project the translator's amplification. Each word was crisp, deliberate, and impossible to ignore. The aliens exchanged alarmed glances, realizing the humans were demonstrating abilities far beyond their reckoning. Mina's voice joined the translation, a calm but resolute undertone. "Every pattern, every maneuver, every synchronized movement carries meaning. This is a display of coordination, diplomacy, and readiness. Underestimate it at your own peril." Escarol's segmented eyes narrowed, scanning the dragons. "We came expecting spectacle," he hissed, "and instead we witness intelligence, precision, control. Every motion of every dragon speaks of mastery, not obedience. How is this possible?" "Through understanding," Ilias replied simply. "Through patience, study, and the old tongue. You see performance, but it is communication. Command, diplomacy, and strategy conveyed in motion, in thought, in word." The dragons executed a final maneuver, hovering above the alien delegates. Lightning arced from one, spiraling in controlled patterns, reflecting off crystalline terraces in dazzling symmetry. Violia's gaze swept the audience, piercing yet serene. "We speak, we move, we act with intent. These humans are our partners, our equals, our masters in communication and understanding." Murmurs erupted among the aliens, panic creeping into their voices. Some muttered about centuries of myths now manifest, tales of human dragons that had been dismissed as legends suddenly grounded in undeniable reality. The air vibrated with tension, a mixture of awe and fear. A Kelari delegate, tentacles trembling, spoke urgently to a Voran colleague. We underestimated them. The humans, they are prepared for negotiation, defense, and conflict. All in one, we cannot treat them lightly. Escarol's mandibles clicked sharply. Control yourselves, do not let fear cloud judgment. They are still human, limited, primitive. His voice wavered as he tried to convince himself. Virelia's eyes gleamed as she spoke again, softer but unwavering. Human patience is not weakness, human restraint is not ignorance. The old tongue grants clarity. The dragons act with understanding and the humans act with intent. Together, we are prepared for any challenge. Elias allowed a faint smile, sensing the shift. Your assumptions are flawed, Ambassador. We have been underestimated for centuries. That is changing now. The dragons descended in unison, landing with deliberate grace. Sparks of elemental energy faded, leaving only the quiet hum of latent power. Alien delegates glanced at one another, stunned into silence. The mockery had dissolved, replaced with a dawning comprehension of the humans' capability. Mina stepped beside Elias, hands still tracing runes. They are panicking, she murmured. They expected playthings. Instead, they witnessed generals, diplomats, and strategists. Elias nodded. Good, let them digest this. Their next moves will be cautious, calculated. And that gives us advantage. Escarol's gaze lingered on Virelia, mandibles clicking softly in thought. We have been blind, he admitted almost to himself. Humans, we misjudged them. Elias' smile deepened imperceptibly. Not misjudged, Ambassador. You simply assumed history was over. You assumed legends were myths. You assumed the old tongue was lost. And yet here we are. Around the terraces, alien whispers grew louder, some tense, some frantic. Delegates consulted translation devices, cross-referencing records, reassessing centuries of galactic understanding. Humans and dragons had not only defended their honor, they had shifted perception, established dominance in subtle, undeniable ways, and left the galaxy's most powerful species questioning their assumptions. Virelia lowered her head slightly, eyes meeting Elias' S. He placed a hand on her scaled neck. Well done, they see us now. And in the silence that followed, charged and fragile, Elias knew the first strike of the galaxy's next challenge had been theirs to define. The dragons had demonstrated, the humans had revealed, and the aliens had no choice but to reconsider everything they thought they knew about the species they had mocked. Elias stepped forward, his gaze sweeping across the terraces, the alien delegates frozen in stunned silence. Mina's hands hovered over the runes, ready to activate the subtle signals linking the dragons, yet she did not move. Elias wanted them to wait, to let the silence stretch long enough for tension to grow. Virelia's wings stirred lightly, sending a ripple through the air, glittering sparks illuminating the faces of the alien nobles. Her eyes glimmered with intelligence, and her voice, low and commanding, resonated in galactic standard. Delegates of the stars, listen carefully. What you have witnessed is not display, not entertainment. It is demonstration. Humans are not here to amuse, but to communicate, to negotiate, and if necessary, to defend. The nobles stirred, murmuring among themselves. A Voran elder hissed sharply, claws tapping against the railing. Defend against whom? Against us? His segmented eyes flickered nervously, darting between dragons and humans alike. This is absurd. Yes, Elias said softly, stepping closer to Virelia. It may seem absurd because you have assumed our limitations. You have assumed humans are simple, our dragons untamed, our language forgotten. You were wrong. Virelia raised her head, and her voice carried again, precise and unwavering. Humans speak the old tongue. They command us not by fear, but by knowledge, patience, and understanding. Our movement, our speech, our coordination, these are extensions of human intent. Underestimated at your peril. A Kelari diplomat's tentacles twitched in agitation. They humans are showing strategy, control, foresight, all while appearing calm. They anticipate reactions before they happen. Her voice trembled as she realized the depth of their miscalculation. Elias' lips curved in a faint smile. That is correct. We have prepared for centuries, observing, studying, mastering. Every move, every word, every signal between dragon and human is deliberate, considered, and precise. Virelia arched into the air, wings unfurling as the other dragons followed suit. Sparks of elemental energy danced along their scales, arcs of lightning forming patterns that seemed at once chaotic and meticulously ordered. Elias gestured subtly, and the dragons responded instantly, weaving through the air in formations that conveyed meaning, strategy, and warning simultaneously. The alien nobles froze in awe and fear. Escarol's mandibles clicked sharply, betraying both anger and disbelief. "We mocked them," he hissed, "and this proves we were blind. Blind to what humans could achieve with dragons, language, and patience." Mina activated the translator amplification. Her calm voice reinforced every word, translating the old tongue with perfect clarity. "You assumed spectacle. You witnessed mastery. We negotiate, we defend, we calculate. Every display is intent made visible. Consider your next steps carefully." A Voran elder shook his head, clearly struggling to maintain composure. "They speak of negotiation as if it is strategy, and strategy as if it is natural to them. How is it that a species so young in the galaxy can master these arts?" "Because they have not only trained dragons," Elias replied. "They have preserved knowledge long forgotten. They speak the language of intent itself. Through the old tongue, thought, magic, and communication merge. Every human-dragon bond you witness is a calculated alignment of power, diplomacy, and foresight." Virelia's voice rose, resonant and commanding, echoing across the terraces. "We are capable of independent judgment. We are allies, partners, and extensions of human mastery. Do not mistake patience for weakness, nor silence for ignorance. These humans are ready for any challenge, and we act with deliberate choice." The nobles' whispers turned frantic. Some clawed at translation devices, others exchanged panicked glances, realizing that centuries of prejudice, myth, and assumption were collapsing in real time. Aliens who had once laughed now hesitated, uncertain how to proceed without provoking forces they barely comprehended. Escarol's segmented eyes narrowed, scanning the humans and dragons. "They speak fluently, they act with precision, they anticipate. He paused, realizing his words faltered under the weight of the truth. "This is not entertainment. This is mastery." Elias' voice, calm yet firm, cut through the murmurs. "You have seen our patience. You have seen our control. The old tongue is not merely a language. It is the key to coordination, to strategy, to understanding. Your assumptions were based on ignorance. That ends today." Virelia hovered, wings beating lightly, eyes locking with Escarol's. "We are ready to negotiate, to defend, or to act. The humans and their dragons are prepared for every scenario. Your perception of us must adjust accordingly." The young Kalari delegate paled, whispering urgently to her companions. "We underestimated them. Every move, every word, it is a demonstration of intellect, foresight, and power we cannot match with mockery." Elias' gaze swept the terraces, noting the hesitation, the fear, the recalculation in every alien delegate's expression. "Legends were not wrong," he said softly, almost to himself. "They simply doubted reality. Now reality speaks." The dragons descended slowly, landing with deliberate grace. Sparks faded, leaving only the quiet hum of latent power. Alien whispers grew louder, a mix of panic, awe, and urgent counsel. The humans remained poised, calm, and unassuming, their mastery quietly undeniable. Mina stepped forward, resting a hand on Virelia's neck. "They see us," she said, her voice low. "They thought they could mock us. They see now that we are not to be mocked. That is power enough for one day." Elias nodded, lips curving in a faint, satisfied smile. "Good, let them reconsider their assumptions. Let them understand that patience, language, and mastery can outweigh arrogance." Escarol's mandibles clicked slowly, reluctantly acknowledging the shift. "Humans, you have revealed strength in subtlety. Do not think this display shields you from the galaxy's scrutiny, but—" He paused, eyes flicking to the dragons. "We see now that we were wrong." Elias' smile deepened imperceptibly. "Acknowledgement is the first step, Ambassador. Understanding comes next, and we are more than willing to teach." Virelia lifted into the air, spiraling upward with astonishing grace. Her voice carried, fluent galactic standard flowing with authority. "Delegates of the stars, witness the synthesis of human strategy and dragon prowess. Our coordination is not mere spectacle. It is proof of centuries of discipline, understanding, and the old tongue's power." A golden dragon rose alongside her, arcs of fire tracing intricate patterns in the air, each line forming symbols of intent that any attentive observer could interpret as both warning and strategy. Lightning crackled from a silver-scaled dragon, forming grids above the crowd that indicated defensive zones, attack vectors, and tactical formations. The aliens froze, staring at the patterns, translating instinctively, realizing that every display had meaning. Escarol hissed sharply, mandibles clicking in disbelief. They are performing strategy. Every motion is coordinated, every pattern deliberate. This cannot be. Humans cannot think in such breadth. They do, Elias said, his voice calm and deliberate. They think, we move together. The old tongue binds thought, language, and action. What appears as performance is in fact communication and command executed flawlessly. Violia dove in a sweeping arc, wings slicing through the air as sparks of frost traced her trajectory. She spoke again, projecting into galactic standard. Observe how our formations anticipate movement, calculate outcomes, and adjust instantaneously. Humans do not merely train dragons. They orchestrate them through intent, foresight, and mutual understanding. The aliens whispered among themselves, panic mixing with awe. A young Kalari delegate's tentacles twitched nervously as she consulted a nearby holorecord. This is impossible. The humans are predicting responses, adapting, coordinating in ways that surpass any documented species. They are not just humans. They are generals, diplomats, and strategists simultaneously. The dragons shifted again, a silver and gold pair performing a near-perfect counterbalance maneuver, freezing midair before separating in divergent arcs that demonstrated both offensive capability and defensive coverage. Sparks formed geometric shapes in the sky, symbols that translated as precise instructions, contingencies, and warnings. Violia's voice rose, resonant and commanding. Do not confuse restraint for ignorance. Every action, every breath, every spark carries intention. Humans have mastered the old tongue to the extent that thought, word, and action are indistinguishable. We act because they command through understanding, not force. Mina's translation voice reinforced each word. You expected beasts, you witnessed generals, you assumed simplicity, you discovered mastery. Consider what you face if you continue underestimating us. Escarol's mandibles clicked repeatedly, a mix of frustration and dawning fear. We mocked them, we assumed control, and now... His segmented eyes scanned the formations above, the controlled fire, lightning, and frost. We realize how thoroughly we misjudged them. Violia spiraled downward, her sapphire scales catching the sunlight, and landed with deliberate precision on the terrace. Sparks flared, illuminating her figure like a living icon of authority. Other dragons followed, descending in perfect harmony, each movement a testament to their discipline and the human's command. Elias stepped forward, hands raised slightly as if to acknowledge the attention. You have now witnessed humans and dragons acting in perfect coordination. What you see is not magic alone. It is study, patience, and centuries of communication. Underestimate it at your peril. Whispers spread through the alien delegates, some frantic, some hushed, all tinged with fear. The younger nobles paled, realizing that every assumption they had made about human weakness was shattered. The mockery of the Beekeeper and his dragons had turned into an undeniable demonstration of intellect, foresight, and martial capability. A Kalari diplomat shivered, tentacles curling tightly. They have trained not just obedience but understanding. Every movement is communication, every spark, every breath, every signal. Her voice broke. They are beyond anything we anticipated. Escarol took a sharp step back, claws brushing the railing. They are unified. Humans and dragons act as one, yet with independent judgment. They are prepared for every outcome. They are, he paused, struggling with the realization, masters of coordination and strategy. Elias' smile was subtle, but it carried the weight of centuries of preparation. We are patient, he said softly. We are deliberate, and we act with intent. What you witnessed today is only a fraction of what humans and dragons can achieve when united. Violia lowered her head slightly, tail brushing the terrace with sparks fading into the air. We have demonstrated restraint, skill, and intelligence. The galaxy has been warned. Humans are neither simple nor weak. We act, we command, and we endure. The alien delegates whispered feverishly among themselves. Escarol's segmented eyes darted from dragon to human, calculating, reconsidering. The mockery was gone, replaced by awe, fear, and a dawning understanding of the human's true capabilities. Mina's hand rested lightly on Violia's scaled neck. They have seen everything, she murmured. Now they understand our patience, our mastery. They cannot ignore it. Elias nodded, voice calm yet resonant. Let them digest it. Let them reconsider every assumption they made. The game has shifted. The balance of perception is ours. And soon they will learn that humans never fight alone. They fight with dragons, with knowledge, and with every advantage we can command. The dragons settled into poised positions, their presence alone radiating authority. The delegates of the stars were silent, transfixed, some attempting to recover composure, others too shocked to act. The humans had turned a display into revelation, a demonstration into declaration. Underestimate us, and the consequences are yours to bear. Escarol's mandibles clicked furiously, his segmented eyes narrowing to slits as he surveyed the terraces. The whispers of the alien delegates had grown into a chorus of alarm, each voice layered with disbelief and rising panic. The humans stood poised, calm, their dragons radiating silent power. The exhibition had shifted from spectacle to reckoning, and every noble in attendance felt the sudden weight of miscalculation pressing down on them. "We underestimated them," hissed a Voran elder, claws tapping rapidly against the railing. "We thought them simple farmers, we assumed ignorance, and now—" He paused, mandibles trembling. "We have witnessed generals and strategists hidden beneath humility." The youngest Kelari delegate's tentacles quivered. They anticipate every reaction, every maneuver. Their dragons act independently yet in concert with humans. They are prepared for conflict, diplomacy, and control all at once. Elias stepped forward, hands relaxed at his sides, his gaze sweeping across the alien assembly. Mina remained close, fingers lightly brushing the runes along the dragon's harnesses, ready to synchronize any signal if needed. Violia tilted her head, observing the crowd with intelligence that bordered on calculation, wings flexing slightly in controlled readiness. "You expected amusement," Elias said evenly, "and yet you have witnessed foresight, strategy, and mastery. The old tongue allows thought, word, and action to merge. You cannot mock what you do not understand, and you cannot ignore what you have seen." Escarol's eyes flicked to Violia, then to the other dragons. Sparks still lingered faintly along their scales, a reminder of their elemental potential. He hissed, struggling to maintain composure. "This display, it is not natural. A species so young, dragons so responsive, it defies precedent. We cannot let arrogance blind us again." Violia spoke again, her voice carrying over the terraces in perfect galactic standard. "We act with restraint, yet our intent is clear. Humans are capable of negotiation, defense, and strategy beyond the assumptions of the galaxy. Do not confuse our patience with ignorance, nor our silence with weakness. We are prepared for any challenge." A golden dragon glided forward, trailing arcs of controlled fire that formed geometric symbols in the air. Lightning crackled from a silver-scaled companion, illuminating patterns that suggested defense grids, contingencies, and offensive vectors simultaneously. The alien delegates froze, translating, calculating, and realizing that what they had dismissed as spectacle was a masterclass in coordination and intellect. A Kelari noble whispered urgently to her neighbor, tentacles coiling tightly. "They are not just humans, they are generals, strategists, and diplomats. Every move, every spark, every word carries meaning. We cannot dismiss them. We cannot treat them lightly." Escarol's claws scraped the terrace railing. "Control yourselves. Do not let fear guide action. They are human, limited, fragile." His voice faltered under the weight of doubt. Yet their coordination, their intent, it is beyond comprehension. Elias' lips curved into a faint smile. "You see, Ambassador, what patience, preparation, and understanding can achieve. Legends do not vanish simply because the galaxy forgets. The old tongue preserves what is powerful, and humans have mastered it. Our dragons are partners, not weapons, yet the galaxy cannot ignore our capability." Violia's eyes glimmered with subtle satisfaction, tail sweeping the terrace in a controlled flourish, sparks dissipating into the air. "The humans have prepared for this encounter, and we act as extensions of their skill, knowledge, and foresight. Your assumptions are obsolete." Escarol hissed again, struggling to regain authority. We must confer. We cannot react hastily, yet we cannot ignore what has been displayed. This changes everything." Mina's hand rested lightly on Violia's scaled neck. "They are realizing it," she murmured. "Every assumption they held is crumbling. The mockery has turned into reverence or fear." The alien delegates whispered frantically among themselves, some attempting to reconcile centuries of assumptions with the undeniable reality before them. The young Kelari delegate muttered, We cannot ignore what we have seen. Their dragons, their strategy, their intent. Humans are no longer to be dismissed." Escarol's segmented eyes flicked across the terraces, calculating, hesitating, reconsidering. "This is not over," he hissed. "But they have demonstrated. Power, intelligence, coordination, beyond any precedent. Elias allowed himself a small smile, sensing the shift. Let them debate, let them whisper. Recognition is the first step. Understanding will follow. And when the galaxy comprehends the full scope of humans and their dragons, they will know we are not a species to mock, nor a people to underestimate. The dragons settled, poised, and vigilant, their presence radiating authority. Sparks lingered faintly in the air, a reminder of the power they could unleash. Alien whispers filled the terraces, some hesitant, some frantic, all tinged with awe and recalculation. Mina's eyes met Elias's. They are beginning to see it. Their mockery has dissolved into calculation and caution. Elias nodded. Good, let them think, let them fear. Our patience and preparation have won the first round. The galaxy is starting to understand what humans, with dragons and the old tongue, can achieve. And in that charged silence, the humans and their dragons remained unwavering. The alien delegates, once mocking and dismissive, now grappled with the realization that centuries of prejudice, legend, and assumption had collapsed in moments. The balance had shifted. The exhibition was no longer entertainment. It was revelation, and the humans had quietly, deliberately seized the advantage. Elias allowed the silence to stretch just long enough for the tension to thrum through the terraces. Alien delegates whispered frantically, their previous confidence fractured, replaced with caution and awe. Viorlia's wings flexed slightly, each movement measured, her gaze sweeping over the audience as if reading their thoughts. Mina stood close to Elias, hands lightly tracing the runes on the dragon's harnesses, ready to reinforce synchronization, but trusting the display had already shifted the balance. Elias' voice was calm, deliberate, and carried across the terraces. You have witnessed coordination, strategy, and intent. You have seen that humans and dragons act in unison, yet each with independent judgment. Now you have the choice to act wisely or to risk miscalculation. A Voran elder hissed, mandibles clicking sharply. They speak calmly, yet every movement is calculated. Their dragons are extensions of them, yet act with their own intelligence. We cannot dismiss this as performance or spectacle. It is. His words faltered as he struggled to articulate the realization. Strategy, foresight, and authority. A Kelari delegate's tentacles twitched nervously. We misjudged them. They are prepared for negotiation, defense, and conflict simultaneously. Every display is both warning and demonstration. We must proceed cautiously. Elias nodded slightly, sensing the shift in energy. Good. We are here not to provoke unnecessary conflict, but to establish understanding. Every action, every movement, every word of our dragons is measured. We are open to dialogue, provided it is approached with honesty and recognition of our capabilities. Escarol's segmented eyes narrowed. We cannot simply ignore this display, but to acknowledge it fully is to concede that our assumptions were flawed. That humans, farmers you call them, are not what we believed. He hissed almost to himself as the weight of centuries of prejudice pressed on him. Viorlia's voice rose, steady and commanding, echoing in galactic standard. We are prepared to communicate. Humans and dragons act not with aggression alone, but with discernment. We offer negotiation, alliances, and counsel, yet we will act decisively if misjudged or underestimated. The aliens murmured among themselves. Some clawed at data pads, cross-referencing records, checking legends they had long dismissed as myth. Others exchanged furtive glances, suddenly aware that every assumption about humans and their dragons had been incomplete, if not entirely wrong. Mina's voice amplified the translation, crisp and calm. Every display you have witnessed has purpose. Consider it both instruction and reassurance. Humans do not seek conflict unnecessarily, but we are prepared for any eventuality. Any attempt to challenge us, without recognition of this, will fail. Escarol's mandibles clicked repeatedly, a mixture of frustration, fear, and reluctant respect. We mocked them, we assumed simplicity. And now they wield strategy, magic, and intelligence in ways beyond precedent. To confront them unprepared would be folly. Elias' smile was subtle, deliberate, as he stepped closer to the edge of the terrace. Our patience has allowed us to demonstrate capability without hostility. Now the choice is yours. Engage with respect, acknowledge mastery, and proceed cautiously, or act rashly and risk miscalculation. Viorlia lowered her wings slightly, tail brushing the terrace with a controlled flourish, sparks fading into the air. Humans have trained us in the old tongue. We act with intent, judgment, and strategy. Every word, every breath, every movement is a calculated choice. Recognize it, respect it, or face the consequences of oversight. A young Kalari delegate muttered, tentacles curling tightly. They are not only humans, but generals, diplomats, and strategists. Every movement has meaning. Every spark is instruction. How can we ignore this without risking catastrophe? The Voran elder hissed again, claws tapping nervously. We must reconsider. We must approach them with caution. Their mastery cannot be dismissed. Elias allowed a brief nod to Mina, signaling her to keep the dragons poised but restrained. The display had made its point. Now subtlety and negotiation would solidify the advantage. The galaxy is vast, ambassador. Humans have always been underestimated. Now you see that we combine foresight, magic, and communication in ways previously thought impossible. We are prepared to engage in discourse as equals, or to defend with decisiveness if necessary. Escarol's segmented eyes flicked across the terraces, calculating rapidly. This changes the equation. We must consider alliances, strategy, and caution. Their dragons, their coordination, it is unparalleled. Virlia's gaze met Elias, a silent acknowledgement passing between them. Every move, every word, every measured display had achieved its goal. Aliens now approached them not with mockery or dismissal, but with trepidation, respect, and calculation. Mina whispered softly, "They are beginning to understand. Our patience, our mastery, our restraint, they cannot ignore it." Elias' lips curved into a faint, satisfied smile. Let them deliberate, let them weigh their options. Recognition is the first step, but understanding, and the caution that follows, is where we gain true advantage. The alien delegates continued their whispered counsel. Some nervous, some panicked, all acutely aware of the humans' capabilities. The terraces were thick with tension, but Elias and his dragon stood unwavering, poised, calm, and ready for whatever came next. Escarol's voice broke the murmurs, hesitant but commanding. We must engage carefully. Humans and their dragons, we cannot underestimate them again. Elias inclined his head slightly. Wise, the galaxy begins to see what humans, with dragons and the old tongue, can accomplish when united. The first steps of diplomacy are now ours to define, and the balance of perception has already shifted. Violia lowered her head slightly, sparks fading, yet her presence radiated authority. The aliens had seen patience, restraint, and mastery. They had seen strategy, foresight, and command. They would carry this understanding forward, recalculating every assumption about humans and their dragons. And in the charged silence that followed, the humans had turned fear into respect, mockery into negotiation, and legend into undeniable reality. The galaxy would never underestimate them again. The terraces were still thick with whispers and careful glances, alien delegates struggling to reconcile centuries of assumption with the undeniable reality before them. Elias stepped forward, voice calm yet carrying authority. You have seen coordination, strategy, and intent. We now extend an offer, dialogue, alliances, and exchange of understanding, provided it is approached with honesty and recognition of our capabilities. Violia hovered above, wings casting broad shadows, elemental sparks fading into the air yet leaving a lingering sense of controlled power. Her eyes swept across the assembly, precise and measured. We offer counsel, negotiation, and partnership. We will act decisively if we are disregarded, but our preference is understanding and alignment. A Voran elder hissed, mandibles clicking as he attempted to maintain composure. You humans, you have demonstrated strategy, foresight, and control. We cannot ignore this, yet to accept your terms is to acknowledge the flaws of our assumptions. Elias inclined his head slightly. Acknowledgement is not weakness, ambassador. Understanding is not concession. It is the first step toward mutual benefit. We offer clarity and partnership. Choose wisely. The younger Kalari, delegates' tentacles trembled. They, humans, not only act with precision, but anticipate our reactions, coordinate with dragons, and communicate intent flawlessly. Their terms, they must be considered seriously. Violia's voice resonated over the terraces, fluent galactic standard carrying a calm authority. Every maneuver, every display, every word is deliberate. Humans combine patience, knowledge, and the old tongue to achieve coordination that rivals even the most disciplined species. Respect our preparation. Escarol's segmented eyes narrowed, scanning the humans and dragons. We must weigh this carefully. Every action, every signal, they are prepared for negotiation, for defense, for contingency. Our mockery has become revelation. Elia's lips curved faintly. We are prepared to negotiate, to cooperate, and to forge alliances, but our patience has limits. Respect our mastery and the galaxy benefits. Disregard it, and the consequences are yours. A silver-scaled dragon descended beside Violia, sparks of frost tracing geometric symbols in the air, grids of coordination, zones of control, and patterns of contingency. Alien delegates froze, translating instinctively. Every symbol reinforced Elias' words. Humans are organized, capable, and fully aware of their own strength. The Voran elder hissed again, claws tapping the railing. Their dragons are not mindless, their humans not naive. Every movement is meaning, every spark a statement. We must consider alliances or face miscalculation. Mina's hand rested lightly on Violia's scaled neck, her voice amplifying the translation. Our offer is simple: recognition, dialogue, and alignment. You now know our capability. Respect it, engage with understanding, and benefit from partnership. Misjudge us again, and you will see the cost of oversight. Escarol's mandibles clicked slowly, acknowledging the reluctant truth. We cannot ignore this display. Humans and dragons, combined, they wield intellect, strategy, and intent beyond precedent. To confront them without acknowledgement is folly. Elias nodded subtly, signaling the dragons to maintain their poised, non-threatening stance. Patience and mastery are our allies. The old tongue preserves not only communication but understanding. We have demonstrated both. The choice now lies with you. Embrace it or miscalculate. Violia's tail swept in a controlled arc, sparks fading yet leaving the terraces charged with authority. Humans act with foresight and intent. We are partners, not threats without cause. Recognition is the first step toward stability, negotiation, and shared purpose. Disregard this, and the consequences will be absolute. The alien delegates whispered urgently among themselves, some panicked, others calculating. The young Kalari muttered, "Their dragons, their coordination, humans combine intellect, strategy, and diplomacy in ways we cannot ignore. We must engage thoughtfully." Escarol's segmented eyes darted across the terraces, analyzing, recalculating. This changes the galaxy's perception. Humans and dragons, they are not to be underestimated. We must proceed with caution. Elias allowed a faint, satisfied smile. Wise, understanding precedes alliance, respect precedes engagement. The galaxy begins to see humans with dragons and the old tongue as a force that cannot be dismissed, a partner that must be acknowledged. Mina's eyes met Elias's. They are recalculating. The shift in perception is solidifying. Our patience and restraint have paid off. The dragons settled into poised positions, vigilant yet calm. Alien whispers filled the terraces, some hesitant, some urgent, all tinged with a newfound respect. Humans had transformed fear into recognition, mockery into diplomacy, and legend into undeniable reality. Escarol's mandibles clicked once slowly, a sound of reluctant acceptance. We will engage carefully. Recognition is required. The humans and their dragons, we cannot underestimate them again. Elias and the Voran elder hissed sharply, claws tapping nervously on the railing. Understanding, you propose that after showing such force, discipline, and intelligence, we now enter dialogue on equal terms. How can we trust that restraint is not a prelude to dominance? Elias' gaze met the elder's, calm and unwavering. Trust is earned through demonstration. You have seen our dragons act with independent judgment, yet synchronized with humans. You have witnessed precision, foresight, and calculation. The restraint you question is not weakness, it is intent. Every move, every word, every spark you observed carried meaning. We act deliberately, not recklessly. Violia's voice projected across the terraces, fluent galactic standard flowing with authority. We do not seek conflict without cause. We offer dialogue and alliances to those who approach with clarity, honesty, and respect. We act decisively only if provoked or disregarded. Recognition is necessary, but understanding cements stability. A Kalari delegate's tentacles twitched nervously. They are not only humans and dragons, but generals, strategists, and diplomats. Their coordination anticipates our reactions, accounts for contingencies, and communicates intent flawlessly. To dismiss this would be catastrophic. Escarol hissed softly, mandibles clicking in reluctant acknowledgement. We must engage carefully. Their mastery cannot be ignored, and their intent must be respected. Any attempt at rash action would be unwise. Elias inclined his head, signaling the dragons to maintain poised but restrained positions. Recognition is only the beginning. Understanding requires engagement, careful consideration, and respect for preparation. Humans, united with dragons and the old tongue, operate at levels previously thought impossible. Virelia descended slowly, landing gracefully on the terrace, her wings folding with deliberate calm. Sparks of elemental energy flickered faintly along her scales, a subtle reminder of her power. We offer partnership, counsel, and negotiation. Consider our proposal with the same precision you saw in our demonstrations. Misjudgment has consequences, wisdom grants opportunity. Mina's voice amplified the translation, steady and unflinching. The humans do not seek domination without cause, but neither do we tolerate dismissal. Every movement you have witnessed today conveys preparation, discipline, and intent. Engage with understanding or risk miscalculation. The alien delegates whispered frantically among themselves. Some scrambled to check records, comparing legends of human dragons with what they had just witnessed. Others exchanged urgent glances, acknowledging that centuries of assumptions had been flawed. A young Kalari delegate muttered, tentacles curling tightly. We must reconsider everything. Humans are not mere farmers. Their dragons are not pets. Every maneuver, every spark, every coordinated breath carries intelligence, foresight, and strategy. We cannot ignore this. Escarol's segmented eyes darted from dragon to human, calculating, reconsidering, weighing the centuries of galactic history against the present reality. Their coordination, their discipline, it surpasses precedent. We have underestimated them, and the consequences could have been dire. We must proceed cautiously. Elias allowed a faint, satisfied smile. Patience has allowed demonstration without provocation. Mastery has allowed communication without threat. Now, engagement begins, grounded in recognition and understanding. The galaxy will witness what humans, dragons, and the old tongue can achieve when combined. Virelia's tail swept in a controlled arc, sparks fading into the terraces, leaving only the quiet hum of potential energy. The humans have demonstrated not just capability, but foresight, diplomacy, and restraint. Any engagement henceforth must account for this. Recognition without understanding is insufficient. Wisdom is required. The Voran elder hissed again, claws tapping nervously. Their dragons act independently, yet in concert with humans. Their strategy is flawless, their intent deliberate. We must acknowledge this, or we risk catastrophic miscalculation. Negotiation must proceed cautiously. Mina's hand rested lightly on Virelia's scaled neck. They see it now. The shift in perception is complete. Our demonstration of patience, mastery, and restraint has yielded acknowledgement and the first steps toward genuine engagement. Elias nodded. Let them deliberate, let them weigh consequences and opportunities. Recognition has been achieved. Understanding and cautious diplomacy are next. And in that understanding, the galaxy will see humans as equals, masters of strategy, communication, and partnership with dragons. The terraces fell into a tense, charged silence. Alien delegates whispered, recalculated, and adjusted their assumptions, realizing that the humans had transformed fear into respect, mockery into acknowledgement, and legend into undeniable reality. The first true steps of interstellar diplomacy were underway, and the humans had set the terms. Escarol's mandibles clicked once, a sound of reluctant concession. We will engage, but carefully. The humans and their dragons, we cannot underestimate them again. Elias inclined his head slightly. Wise. Let understanding follow recognition. In that understanding, the galaxy will finally perceive the true power of humans united with dragons and the old tongue. Elias stepped forward, the weight of the terraces, silence settling over the assembly. Alien delegates leaned in, hesitant, calculating, some still recovering from the realization of humans' mastery, others resigned to reconsider centuries of assumption. Mina adjusted the runes on the dragons' harnesses lightly, hands steady, ready for any subtle signal, but trusting that the display of restraint had already cemented respect. Delegates of the stars, Elias began, voice calm yet resonant. We have demonstrated patience, mastery, and coordination. We have shown the old tongue in practice, the bond between humans and dragons, and the ability to combine foresight, strategy, and diplomacy. Now the path forward is clear, cooperation or miscalculation. Virelia lifted into the air, wings unfurling with controlled majesty, elemental sparks tracing subtle arcs that conveyed readiness without threat. We act with restraint, yet our intent is clear. Humans and dragons are prepared to negotiate, defend, and assist, depending on the choices made by those who approach with honesty and respect. A Voran elder hissed softly, claws tapping on the railing as he spoke. We have underestimated humans and their dragons. The assumptions of weakness and simplicity are shattered. Their mastery of the old tongue, their strategy, and their discipline, it leaves us no margin for error. Elias inclined his head. Recognition is only the first step, understanding is the next. We offer cooperation, alliances, and shared purpose, provided it is approached with clear intent and respect. Any attempt to act without acknowledging these realities will yield consequences you cannot ignore. The young Kelari delegate's tentacles twitched nervously, translating the display of elemental patterns and coordinated dragon maneuvers into instinctive calculations. They anticipate every response. Their dragons are not merely obedient, they reason, adapt, and communicate intent flawlessly. Humans are generals, diplomats, and strategists combined. We cannot ignore them. Escarol's mandibles clicked, segmented eyes narrowing in reluctant concession. We must engage cautiously. Their dragons, their coordination, their mastery, it exceeds precedent. To underestimate them again would be catastrophic. Elias gestured subtly, and Virelia's wings flexed, creating arcs of controlled sparks that illuminated the terraces like a living map of strategy. Observe. Every maneuver, every gesture, every spark is deliberate. Our dragons act with judgment, our humans act with foresight, and together we operate as a cohesive force, yet each retains independent awareness. Mina's voice amplified the translation with calm authority. You have seen our restraint and skill. We seek dialogue, partnership, and understanding. We are prepared for negotiation, and we are prepared for defense. The choice is yours to approach wisely or to risk the consequences of underestimation. The alien delegates whispered urgently among themselves. Some clawed at records, trying to reconcile the legends of human dragons with what they had just witnessed. Others exchanged glances heavy with realization that centuries of prejudice had collapsed in moments. Virelia descended gracefully, landing on the terrace, tail sweeping in a controlled arc that sent a faint spark across the stones. Humans act with patience, calculation, and foresight. We are partners, not weapons without cause. Recognition has been achieved. Now understanding is required to forge meaningful alliances. A Voran elder hissed again. Their dragons act independently yet in harmony with humans. Their strategy anticipates ours. Every movement is communication. We must not dismiss this. Diplomacy must proceed cautiously and with respect. Escarol's mandibles clicked slowly, acknowledging the reluctant truth. We cannot ignore this display. Humans and dragons combined wield intellect, strategy, and command beyond precedent. Any rash action would be unwise. Elias allowed a small, satisfied smile. Patience and preparation have achieved acknowledgement without provocation. Mastery has turned mockery into recognition and threat into opportunity. Now, dialogue begins on terms we define, tempered by caution and respect. Virelia's wings folded slowly, leaving only the faint shimmer of elemental sparks lingering in the air. The galaxy has observed humans not as simple beings, but as strategists, diplomats, and masters of communication and intent. Those who engage must account for this. Respect, understanding, and foresight are now essential. Mina's hand rested lightly on Virelia's scaled neck. They see it fully now. Our demonstration has transformed perception into respect, mockery into acknowledgement, and fear into understanding. Elias nodded. The first steps of engagement are complete. The path forward will require wisdom, and the galaxy has begun to see what humans united with dragons and the old tongue can achieve. Cooperation is possible should it be approached with clarity and honesty. Miscalculation is costly, remember that. The terraces fell into a charged silence. Alien delegates whispered urgently, recalculating, reconsidering, and adjusting centuries of assumptions. The humans had turned a display into a revelation, mockery into diplomacy, and legend into undeniable reality. Escarol finally hissed, mandibles clicking once in reluctant concession. We will proceed carefully. Humans and their dragons, we cannot underestimate them again. Elias inclined his head slightly, voice calm and deliberate. Wise, let understanding follow recognition, let